Nick, Andy, first things first this week, we're going to focus on what are the expectations for Lionel Messi and Inter Miami in 2024. They kicked off the new MLS season in style. They beat Real Salt Lake 2-0. Messi got an assist, of course, a lot of dazzling skills. And Nick, I'm going to come to you first. There's been a lot of talk about Messi with the preseason tour, what he did at the end of last season when he first arrived. What are your thoughts on this opening win and generally the season for him and Inter Miami?
So let me start by admitting a little bit of bias. I love that dude. I love watching him play. He's the example of if you say, hey, who would you want to be as a player? Like replicate that skill set. It's that artist that I love about it. But what I'll say is that the thing I couldn't get over last night is there are different standards for Lionel Messi. And if Carlos Vela or Graham Zusi or whatever, I was looking at Andy in Kansas City, if they chipped their dribble over an injured player, that dude's getting punched in the face. So I love the standards that are out there. My expectations are I will watch him. I will watch Inter Miami every week. I want to see how Luis Suarez does. I wish their jerseys weren't pink. Like, I have a lot of takes. But I will say I'm so excited for this season. I even bought tickets to see him this year. So, it's the whole thing's working for me is what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're going soon, right? We're going to look forward to getting an update from you going down to Florida to see him in the flesh. And Andy, I think Nick summed it up perfectly there. The fact that Messi can just do a little dink over a player that was down for no real reason. He just seems to be having fun and almost reminds me of looking back and seeing the old NASL videos and of Pele and Beckenbauer and Cruyff just having fun and having a good time. That's the vibe, what it feels around Miami right now with Messi, right? With Suarez, Busquets, Alba, all there. It's kind of like, yeah, we're probably going to win it all, but we're also going to have a good time and entertain people doing it at the same time. So I guess, is there a little bit of a balance there to kind of pump the brakes a little bit with this showmanship, or is that just what you get with Messi and with these great players all in Miami and in MLS at the same time?
A bit of both, maybe. Messi specifically, never been the showboating type. You know, he is so supremely confident, but quietly confident, and he has never been, he's never thumped his own chest. He's never, made it about him. Rarely. A lot of other people typically make it about him, and it seems like he kind of goes along with it. I think about the Argentina team at the World Cup. That became the Messi World Cup, but it wasn't Messi making it about Messi. It was everyone else, and it was his teammates wanting it to win it for him. I think he will. Obviously, he's going to have success when he's at Miami. They're going to be good this year. I question a little bit the lack of dynamism and pace and just ability to stretch a game a little bit. It was the word I kept coming back to watching the game against RSL, plodding. It was really slow. It was really predictable. You knew what the buildup was going to be. It's still really spectacular, and Messi can still create from absolutely nothing. But he's going to, I think, always have to create from absolutely nothing in this team because they don't have a forward up top, as good as Luis Suarez is and has been throughout his career, that can stretch the defense. And I think that's going to be really important for Messi to have as he gets later on into his career, now that he's passed 1,100 professional competitive games.
That's absolutely incredible. I think when we look at this, Nick, obviously we're thinking, what should we expect from him and Inter Miami in 2024? Luis Suarez seems to be the key in this because he can take maybe some of the pressure off Messi, where last season it was him or nothing, him scoring the goals, assisting. But now he has a superstar who, again, is getting up there in years. His injuries have piled up over the years as well. But we saw that he can really help deliver those goals and key moments to help Messi. And I'm just intrigued to see how they can do across all these different competitions, the continental ones, obviously in MLS as well. But that's going to help Messi this season, right? And almost take the pressure off him a little bit. Everyone's still going to be watching him and every move, but having Suarez there has got to be so helpful for him.
It will. So here's my thing. We talk about them winning it all. And when you have a player like that, Messi or Suarez, a healthy Suarez, of course it's going to happen. I mean, Busquets, as slow as he might be, he was never fast. You have those players who can change a game. I'm interested because this remains a league where it's very difficult to win on the road because of travel, regardless of how you're chartering a plane. You're still going, you know, across 3,000 miles to play a game in Seattle. And given the fact that the expectation is there for these superstars to be on the field for the other competitions, and again, I don't mean to get into controversial territory here, but these sort of MLS engineered competitions that they're trying to put history into in year 2, right? That asks a lot of these star players. And knowing Suarez's recent injury history, you're both talking about a player that in Brazil last year had 19 goals and 14 assists in 40 games. He can still play, right? But you can't play him every game. You can't play him in games that are on turf, etc. And so how do they balance that? Because it is so important in this league to have home field for the playoffs. And as they've removed the structure, right, for how you qualify and where you are, being the 1 seed or the 2 seed seems so important to me. And that's the Suarez thing will help, but where are they using him for help? Because I guarantee there are going to be games, and they just better not be at Orlando City in about 2 weeks, where both dudes get rested. And that becomes a big challenge.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? And that kind of puts us nicely onto the next point, Andy. We saw the uproar about Messi not playing in certain games on the preseason tour across the world, the backlash, all the rest of it. It happened a little bit at the end of last season when he first arrived as well, when he had that injury. I mean, managing this situation and managing expectations is probably key for all of this as well, because he's going to pick up little injuries. He has done quite consistently over the last few years. And obviously, you have to factor in Copa America happening in the middle of the season and in the summer. Of course, a bit of a break for MLS season, but Leagues Cup, like Nick mentioned, so many other tournaments going on. Do we have to manage these expectations a little bit? Because I'm looking around elsewhere in MLS, and obviously, Columbus Crew, FC Cincinnati, Union, Seattle, LAFC, even Orlando City in-state. There's a lot of contenders there that will say, hang on a minute, like, we know you got Messi, but we are building something sustainable, something solid here in our team. And I don't think it's going to be as easy as just rolling out these 3 or 4 guys and expecting them to win it all, right? Or am I being a bit down on Miami? Because we saw some flashes of brilliance last season from them.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said there. And it's not so much a pump the brakes kind of situation. I think it's just people are going to want to see Messi play, obviously, every single week. That's not going to happen at this point of his career. Like I said, he's played over 1,100 games. He's closing in on the top 5 in terms of appearances for outfield players for club and country all time in the history of the sport. And, you know, he obviously has never really relied on the physical aspects of the game. It's always been about being more technically gifted, seeing the game in a way that probably nobody else in the history of the game has ever seen the game. And so those things, when he is on the field, will serve him well. And I think he will single-handedly and drag Inter Miami to 3, 4, 5, 6 wins this season that they probably don't deserve. But when he is with the national team, when he is having kind of scheduled rest, we need to understand, and I think fans, and it's going to be difficult for people that buy tickets, especially road games and the prices that they're going to pay. I understand all of those factors. But when he is rested, I think we need to understand it's for a reason. It's not because he doesn't want to play. It's not because they're trying to gyp fans out of their money. Nobody understands their body, or his body specifically, better than Lionel Messi. He's been doing this for such a long time. He understands what he needs to do to get himself to each checkpoint of the season in this condition, you know, producing at this rate, knowing that at the end of the season, something new awaits Lionel Messi. He needs to be at his best at the end of the season. It's not so much about the long marathon of the regular season in MLS. So that's a little facet that I'm going to be interested to see how not just Tata, but specifically Messi kind of navigates that entire thing.
Yeah, the navigation of keeping Messi fit, fresh is really interesting to me, because I'm trying to think, has there really ever been similar situations to this in world football or even in his career? Because he's been pretty fit and hardly picked up any injuries for the vast majority, or any lengthy injuries for the vast majority of his career. So there is that sort of expectation that you're always going to see him if you pay him money, but we know that's not the way sport works. And Nick, I'm not sure if this is because it's soccer and a different sport, but I feel like in the States sometimes, maybe is it because in basketball or other sports, if you pay your money and you want to see a superstar, you kind of know that you're probably going to see them for at least a little bit of time on the court, or, you know, I'm thinking about going to watch LeBron, right, in the NBA. Unless it's a really bad injury, he's probably going to play a few minutes and you're going to say, oh, I saw him in the flesh and playing. Is there that little aspect there as well, where maybe it's the understanding of like Messi cannot be rolled out, this is going to do him serious harm if he even does come on for like 5 or 10 minutes during a game?
Well, and basketball is a great example because over the last 10 years, they've been forced to address that. Players just kind of taking a couple of days off for maintenance days or whatever. And it's funny, it's something that the reason the NFL schedule probably isn't longer is because they'd have to give some guys games off. And I look at this, and I went through transfer market and I looked at player value. It's impossible to make these comparisons because there's no one in the stratosphere of him. First of all, there are very few players in the stratosphere of him anywhere. But in MLS, you look at the transfers and it's still like New York City FC arguably has built itself up smartly when they sell a Castellanos or whatever and reinvest that money. They've done a fantastic job and have built maybe a more complete team. You know, they don't have Lionel Messi. And judging this is just so difficult. And I think a lot of people like us can look even dumber than we are. I was going to say can look like idiots. I'm like, let's say we're not geniuses. It's an impossible to predict league. But when you have one player who's in a absolutely, like there is, how many $10 million, honest to God, how many $10 million players are on rosters in MLS right now? It's a dozen, maybe. If they were to be outgoing right now, it's a dozen maybe. And this dude still would go for 50, you know, if he were being sold right now at age 1 million. So I just don't know how to judge it because the league has gotten so good. And then you have done Beckham times 1 million and said, here's the best to maybe ever do it. He's still going. How do we judge that? And I just don't know how to answer those expectations other than to say, I don't want him in a one-off game against my team.
Yeah, it's such a unique situation. And I think the expectations, the only thing I want is to be calmed down a little bit because of the expectation that he should be playing every game and Miami are going to win every game. And I don't think that's fair on him, not fair on Miami, but it's going to be really intriguing to see how they just manage it, because over the season, there's going to be a lot of, I think, circumstantial issues that pop up around Messi and the other superstars they have there that they really have to manage well. I think that's the really intriguing part about how consistent you need to be to win the Supporters' Shield. We know that if they get into the playoffs, they could probably go all the way and win it, but it's actually getting there in the first place. And that's a big step for this Miami team, Messi or not. So head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest on Messi, how he's getting on in his first full season in MLS with Suarez and co alongside him. It's going to be intriguing, and Nick, Andy, and I will keep you updated every step of the way.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.